All right, guys, welcome back to the Low Carb Consultant Podcast. I'm excited to welcome Maria Emmerich on. Maria is a keto nutritionist and exercise physiology expert who's been helping people around the world transform their health for over 20 years. After battling PCOS, weight gain, inflammation, and energy struggles herself, she embraced a low carb, keto, carnivore approach, became a best selling author of more than 20 books, and now coaches clients globally to get off meds, heal autoimmune and metabolic issues, and reclaim their health. Maria lives with her husband, Craig, and she creates delicious, sustainable keto and carnivore recipe programs and education that make real transformation possible. So, Maria, it's again a pleasure to meet you and excited to get into everything. Thanks for taking the time.
Oh, thanks, Max. It's an honor. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I typically say this in most of my openings before we get into all the fun stuff. And I know we were chatting offline before we started recording about some fun stuff. Maybe for some of the listeners who are not familiar with who you are quite yet, would you mind giving us just a real brief background on yourself and how you got into this space?
I was 16 years old and I was twice my size. And as a very short human, I was very round. I was always an athlete. I was a really great athlete, but just, I was trying to out eat or, out exercise a bad diet. And I went to my family doctor, and at that visit, she told me I had something called PCOS. She also gave me 3 prescriptions, which I never filled, something for depression, something for IBS, and something for acid reflux, because I had pretty severe acid reflux. And I didn't want to fill them. And then that same week, I took my beautiful golden retriever who was losing patches of her hair to the vet. And the first question the vet asked me was, "What are you feeding her?"
Mm.
It was a question the doctor never asked me. Now if a doctor asks me, I'm like, "None of your business. We're good. Don't worry about it." I eat nothing from a package. But at that visit, I was really scared because they basically told me I couldn't have my own children. And there wasn't the internet back then, but looking into what causes PCOS, it's excess caffeine, sugar, and carbohydrates. And at the time, I worked at this coffee shop that before I'd go to school, I'd go to this coffee shop at about 4 a.m. and I'd make the scones and the muffins and the cinnamon rolls and whatever we didn't sell that day. So I went to school, and then afterwards I went back to close it up. And whatever didn't sell that day, I got to go home with. So, Seinfeld, the muffin tops?
Yeah.
I had like all the muffin tops, and that literally was my dinner. You think I'm kidding, but I'm not. And I would know what days we would, like Fridays, Saturdays, I would make extra cinnamon rolls just to make sure I had some for dinner. And so, knowing I had to change my diet, I did not want to eat chicken breasts or broccoli. And if you would have told me I could only eat meat as a carnivore, I wouldn't even have tried. So that's why I like to meet people where they're at. But I just started making my favorite things like cinnamon rolls into these exotic protein, low carb, sugar free, exotic, delicious things that I kept those recipes a secret for a very long time. But we started adopting. I was married before I could legally drink alcohol, and we started adopting right away. And Craig lost his job, and we ended up, the bank took our house, we sold our cars, we literally had nothing. And a friend said, "Why don't you write a cookbook to raise money for your adoption?" So I literally had to ride my bicycle to the library to write, but it gave me a reason to wake up. I started
Hmm.
a blog then too. And that's kind of how I went to college for nutrition and exercise physiology. And that's kind of how it all blossomed into like these hardships that I went through. I'm very grateful for, because I know how to live without any money, and I am grateful for every day.
So I've heard you on a lot of podcasts, and to be honest with you, I did not know that portion. And how does the saying go? Hard times create strong men, and then, but yeah, that's amazing. So going back when you were initially getting into this, and you started writing, you started the blog, you started writing like the first cookbook. What year was that again?
I'm trying to think of how long I've been blogging. I think it's been 15, 16 years. And the first book I haven't, I should show you. It's in the kitchen. It looks like an old, like church cookbook. It's old school, and I've learned a lot since then, but
Yeah.
it's nice to just see the progress, and I will say I can take constructive criticism very well. I can handle nice constructive criticism, and the first few books I wrote was before children, and it was that my recipes were too hard. And
Mm,
then I had kids and I understood, and now when I cook, it's 5 minutes, boom, I'm done,
yeah. That's
and
awesome, and I was telling you offline, I've made a lot of your recipes, and for anyone listening that has not seen your Instagram yet or your YouTube, I highly suggest going there, and we can kinda drop some of those at the end for the show notes. But yeah, your Instagram, your Pinterest, your YouTube channel is fantastic for all the recipes that you do, and of course, like I was saying earlier, you're cooking with your kids. It's really very entertaining, all that stuff. I wanted to go back real quick to some of the PCOS and metabolic issues. Do you remember at all if there was one single thing that you ended up changing that you feel like turned everything around? Because I know when you're eating a bunch of carbs and muffins and breakfast pastries, obviously when you make probably any sort of a change, you're going to see some sort of a result. But in terms of for you specifically and what you were dealing with, PCOS, certain metabolic issues, do you remember one specific thing that you ended up doing that completely made a 180 for you?
well, people who know me know I'm an all or nothing person.
Mhm.
I'm very, determined, I am stubborn. When I say I do something, I do it. And I went all in, and I went 100% gluten-free, and I lied to my family and said I have a gluten allergy, that's what the doctor told me, and they started making all this rice and stuff, and I didn't know rice didn't have gluten, and I was like, "I can't have that either." But I should have just said, "I am sick, and the food is causing me to be sick, so I need to cut out some of the carbohydrates and sugar and stuff." But I think cutting out gluten and sugar, that was my main focus right away. And that very first week, the biggest change I felt was my depression went away. And I'm not telling anybody to go off their antidepressants. This is my story.
Sure.
I felt like a happy new human. And that's what kept me on the diet. I was like, I'm never going back to that person ever. And I have,
Interesting.
it's been 28 and a half years and I haven't gone back to that.
Well, I would say a lot of people just ditching sugar in general that are being prescribed antidepressants or that are struggling with mental health, whatever the case is. Just cutting out sugar and carbs, like, I noticed that in my own life, like, how much better I felt, how much clearer my mind was, how much happier I was, mood lifted, elevated, everything. And it's crazy to me how something as simple as sugar can actually impact us that much. And I know we were talking about your husband, Craig, who had come on the podcast previously. Great guy. I think Craig is fantastic. And I know you all at this point have, I think, consulted with and helped maybe hundreds, if not thousands of people at this point. Um, when you guys get someone new coming in regards to the debate around keto or carnivore, protein sparing, how do you decide which path to recommend for someone struggling with whether it be weight loss, autoimmune disease, or hormonal imbalance? How do you approach that initial consultation with them and then pick a pathway?
Well, I'm going to toot my own horn and it's hundreds a month. So it's a lot more than you think.
Wow, I was off.
So I will say that again, if somebody would have told me I had to be carnivore when I was first starting out, I wouldn't have even tried. So I think that's a big piece of where I like to approach things is meeting people where they're at because this is going to be a long-term thing. This is not a okay, I'm losing pounds and then I'm going to go back
Yeah.
because your body's just going to go back to what it was. This is not a short-term thing. I wanted to see it as a lifestyle. So, carnivore, I usually use for autoimmune issues. I
Mm,
it is the ultimate autoimmune protocol. It's very helpful for chronic pain, Lyme disease. Um, However, I'm gonna do it differently than most people. So we're not gonna be putting butter on steak. We're not gonna do any dairy for autoimmune issues. Dairy is it's a more common allergen than gluten is, but we don't wanna say that in the carnivore and keto community because, "Oh, you're taking away my precious butter and cheese and
Mm.
cream? How dare you?"
Yeah.
So, with autoimmune issues, yeah, definitely a dairy-free carnivore approach. When someone is, obese, I'm going to suggest a few protein-sparing modified fasting days. They don't have to do that, but when they see very fast results, they want in, right? They're more addicted to keep going. So we had someone named Tyler. I don't know if Craig ever talked about him on your podcast, but Tyler was 650 pounds and we got him to lose 100 pounds in 2 months. And
If I remember, was he the guy that was
metabolic,
overweight, like you just said, but his blood markers showed like he wasn't insulin resistant, correct? If I
nope.
remember?
He had perfect blood. His blood was perfect, but he
Yeah.
was the anomaly that was able to gain more fat cells.
Yes, I
Most
remember.
people can't. Yeah. So his fat cells weren't stuffed. He was able to make more of them. He would outlive all of us.
So how do you approach a situation like that? Putting on like a more moderate fat carnivore approach include some high protein sparing days. Is that basically what you guys did?
So he can get away with doing protein sparing days more often than someone who's trying to lose 100 pounds, right?
Sure.
Because he had a lot of energy on his body. So what I suggested with him was we did 3 protein sparing days a week. And then if you do 3 of them, I do like to do one overfeeding day, which is not like a Pizza Hut day, but that's your ribeye day. That's your ribs day. That is your fattier cuts of meat day. I do still suggest people go dairy free if they want fast results, but with Tyler, it was going to be a long haul.
Yeah.
And so I told him, I said, if you want pizza, this is the recipe you're going to do because he didn't mind cooking. But the problem was his neighbors would bring him crap all the time. And so he was mentally ready to do it, but he was surrounded by food pushers, right? They would bring him, the to go take out pizza and stuff like that. But yeah, with him, I wasn't so strict with dairy because he didn't have any autoimmune issues. And this had to be a long haul. I didn't want him to quit because he couldn't have pizza anymore.
Interesting. So how long ago was this? Where is Tyler at right now?
This must have been 4 years ago. And yeah, it's not a great story. He's not on the diet. He's back to his old ways.
Uh let's talk about that because I think a lot of people have that issue that you were referring to a little bit earlier, and it's like maybe the societal
Mhm.
community pressure, friends, family. He was sounds like with his living situation, he had people coming over bringing him food, and that's hard to turn down. You don't want to be mean or say, "Oh no, I'm not going to eat that. I'm on a diet." Like, so for some people that's hard to do. Like, how did you consult with him when he was bringing that up? Like, it's, "Oh, my neighbor's bringing me a pizza." Well, it's like, "Tyler, just don't eat it." Like, I was curious to see how you approach those types of situations with people.
It's very difficult, especially when you're dealing with an obvious food addiction.
Yeah.
And he was in a culture, and I can say this because it's the same town I grew up in, and we went to high school together.
Okay.
And in north central Wisconsin, you live to eat. You don't eat to live. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, food's a big deal up there.
I mean, it's cold.
Yeah.
You hunker down and when you do eat differently than everybody else, they get triggered, and that's what I tell in my presentation. What happens when you're trying to cut out alcohol or drugs or cigarettes, everybody's very supportive, right? They don't even want to have a beer around you. But if you cut out sugar or carbohydrates, what happens? Your mom
Every
makes you your favorite pie, right? That's what happened
Yeah,
to me.
yeah.
My family was triggered, but I'm such a stubborn girl that I was like, "Psh, you think I can't do this? Watch out." Right? So I try to encourage them to be different, and I think I do a very good job at it because look at my children. We live in a white community,
Mhm.
and they are super comfortable with being different. The way they don't eat the way same way that their friends eat. They look way different than their friends. They dress different. Like, they're totally okay with being different. So, I think that's the big thing. Like, nobody who wants to be the same as everybody else. Those people don't become successful people. If you are a sheep.
Yeah. And I would agree going back to what you were saying about your children, it was funny. So I'm in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
We took, my kids a few weeks ago down to it's it's like a natural spring swimming hole.
Barton Springs?
Barton Springs.
I know
Yeah.
that very
Yeah,
well.
yeah. So we took them down there, and it's obviously very touristy. There's a lot of, like, locals that go down there and swim and do their thing, but it's also very touristy, people from all over the place, and obviously everyone's swimming, bodies are revealed, shirts are off, and we were walking back to the car, and my son said something very interesting to me. He's like, "Dad, everyone I saw today was fat." And I was like, "Mm." And I'm an in shape guy. My kids watch me work out. They know what dad is into.
Mhm.
Our kids eat a certain way, similar to your kids. They're in shape and lean. Same thing with my wife. And so my wife and I looked at each other, and I knew that this was one of those moments. You know what I mean? One of the moments where we're gonna have, like, a talk in the car on the way home, like, "Okay, we don't eat like everybody else. We
Right.
don't want to be like everybody else. We work out, we take care of ourselves because we want you guys to do the same thing so you are not, overweight kids." I was just curious to get your thoughts on that and see if you have maybe some of the same conversations with your 2 boys.
Well, we have held classes at our house where we can fit maybe 50 people in our living room area. We haven't done one lately, but we would have all these strangers come piling into the house, and the boys would basically hear us present. And we've been doing this for 15 years, even before they were in our family, right? Um And so it's interesting to see what they pick up on because we set out all the chairs and the living room was all ready for the people to come, but it was probably an hour before the class started. And my son gets up there and we have this on video. Craig and I are in the office and we peek out there. Hey, everybody, you know what causes diabetes? And they just went on and on and on about they were Kai was sitting in the audience where my oldest one was doing like the presentation. And it
Yeah.
was so funny. And Kai's in the audience. He's like, "Can I have bread? No. Can I have
They
ice?"
had they had, like, a little shtick. They had a
Yeah,
little
it's
shtick
so
going on.
funny. And it's like, "Aw." And he was like pretending to be disappointed like the people in the audience, right?
Yeah.
But then he's like, "Oh, but you can have my mom's ice cream," like thinking positive. And it's just cool for them to think about how if you're the type of person that's always like doom and gloom, right? When I
Mhm.
was told I couldn't have my own kids, I could have gotten really depressed like a lot of women do. But I was like, no, I'm going to change the life of other children and adopt them. I was very positive about it. And if you are like that with all parts of your life, even what your diet is, like, oh, Maria said I can't have bread. I can't have rice anymore. I'm not, this sucks. If you think about that, you're gonna fail. But if you're like, "Hey, Maria said I could have that the chicken wings, and I could have her ice cream, and I could have that chocolate tort thing that she makes." If you start thinking about all the things you can have rather than the things that you can't,
Mhm.
first of all, more people are gonna wanna be around you because who wants to be around the doom and gloom people? Nobody.
No.
And the people that are successful look on the bright side. So I just want that to sit with people because I think there's too many doom and gloom.
Well, man, I can't agree with you more. So, I'm 40 years old, and as I've gotten older, you have all your friends that separate from high school or college, everyone goes in their different directions, and then you have some friends that, can't I'm sure you have this too, I feel like everybody has this, where some friends are maybe lagging behind a little bit, but they can't get things together, they've got some bad habits. I can't talk to those friends anymore. Like, as much as, like, some of them were, like, my brothers growing up, my mom will still take care of some of my friends,
Oh,
like, that have bad living situations.
wow.
And it almost pains me to say this, but I can't have conversations with those people anymore. I can't be on the phone with them anymore because it starts to bring you down,
Yep.
right? It starts to bring you down and what you're trying to do, and 100% I agree with you. You can't surround yourself, and even as good as that friend is, you almost have to distance yourself from them or almost remove the frequency in which you speak to them because that will negatively impact your mindset and what you're trying to do. That is absolutely a thing.
Yep. It is.
100%.
It is, and we have the power to change that. So if you are that person, you have the power to change that. And what you put in your mouth can help you change that.
Absolutely. And maybe getting back to, because I feel like we went this direction because we were talking about Tyler, the gentleman that you were helping. For people that, let's say for someone that's stuck, whether it's keto, let's say they're on keto, low carb carnivore, for someone that's stuck and they're maybe not seeing the improvements, whether it's in their energy, their body weight, or maybe some of their metabolic markers,
Mhm.
what is typically the protocol when you've been already working with someone and then maybe they start to hit that plateau?
Well, most people that come to me that are like, "Hey, I'm keto or carnivore," and I'm not losing any weight, I'm gaining it. I was like, "Well, most people do it wrong for weight loss."
Mm,
99% of people do it wrong for weight loss. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'll probably ask them about their sleep, just because it's something that nobody really asks them about or touches on.
sure.
I'm gonna ask them if they're menopausal and if they're on HRT, and if they're not, ask them why not, because you become more insulin resistant without estrogen. Um, I'm going to ask them if they drink caffeine or coffee, because that's gonna affect their results. I'm going to politely ask them to cut out dairy and follow these meal plans. I'm probably gonna increase their protein and lower the fat,
Mm.
compared to what most carnivore experts out there recommend. Um, and it works every time. So,
Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of what I wanted to get at here with you.
that's why I said when people come to me, because
Yeah.
when I'm working with somebody, they don't get stuck. I'm just they don't.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And I have a feeling because, again, I was also talking with your husband about this. I know you guys get a lot of clients coming from the high fat carnivore space. And it's weird. It's not weird. I would say it's more so interesting because I was talking with Robert. I had Robert Sykes on this podcast. He was the last guest, so this was maybe a handful of days ago. And Robert Sykes is, in my opinion, a little bit different, right? Because he's a ketogenic bodybuilder, right? And he also changes his diet a lot because he'll go through bulking for a bodybuilding show, and then he'll go through a cutting phase, a prep, right, to get stage ready. His diet and his macronutrients are changing. He's constantly changing his diet. And when I was talking with him, he was also playing around with alternate day eating. So he would eat like 3,000, 3,500, 4,000 calories one day, not eat the next day, and then do that the next day. So he's constantly changing his diet, playing around with different things. And I think that's one of the reasons why he can sustain the way that he eats, because he's always kind of changing things. And that's just how he lives his life because of what he's into and what he does. Now, from the people that come to you from the high fat carnivore space, this is what I was talking with Craig about, that are gaining weight. And we were talking about Dr. Robert Kiltz a little bit earlier, who probably would agree with this and say, oh, you got to go the higher fat carnivore. But it's like, the way I look at it is high fat carnivore will work initially, especially if you're overweight. If you're eating a standard American diet and you're having the muffins and the breakfast pastries and the carbs and the sugar, going high fat carnivore, if you're completely removing a macronutrient, which is carbs, that is throwing an entire wrench into your metabolic process. Like, you're probably going to lose some weight, but at some point the body will work very hard to adapt to what you're doing. And if the amount of fat intake you're taking in, and I'm saying this because I want to get your 2 cents on this, but if you're eating like 250, 300 grams of fat in a day, or maybe more, depending on what you're consuming, your body is going to sense that you're in a very abundant food environment. And why would it want to tap into stored body fat? You might gain weight. What are your thoughts on that from the perspective of people coming to you guys from the high fat carnivore space?
I just kind of get frustrated that they put up with it for so long because Maria, I gained 50 pounds doing high fat carb. I was like, why didn't you stop after 10? You know, why did you keep listening? And they said, because they said I was healing. Nobody is healing when they're gaining weight and they're already an overweight body. And I'm sorry, but you are wrong. People can go from a standard American diet to carnivore and gain weight. I've seen it all the time. They
Mm,
don't lose any weight, they just gain it. Think about how caloric dense. I mean, n- people don't want to admit this, but calories are calories. So if you go from a standard American diet and then you go to carnivore and you're drinking the heavy cream and you're eating a stick of butter on top of a ribeye, you are putting yourself in a lipotoxicity state. And it is not a healthy state to be in.
yeah, well, and to your point, I know sometimes, the calorie word can be a touchy subject for people in the low carb ketogenic space because no one wants to track it. I get it. Like everyone wants to eat intuitively and not track and blah blah blah. But to be honest with you, like people do need to understand that a gram of fat has what 9 calories in it, and it's like if you're if to your point, if you're going from like a standard American diet where you're eating sugar carbs and then you're bumping up the fat, well, fat has more calories per gram. Like, yeah, you're gonna gain weight. The calories matter. The energy of the food does matter.
It's the same reason why the sugar diet works. I'm not saying I'm not
Mm,
saying it's healthy, but it's
yeah,
the same reason that, people can lose weight eating nothing but Twinkies. It's been proven,
yeah.
right? Eating nothing but McDonald's. It's been proven. But it's a caloric deficit. It's not a healthy diet, and I'm not encouraging anybody to do that, but you can reverse insulin resistance eating Twinkies. You can reverse insulin resistance eating a vegan diet. Do I recommend it? Absolutely not, but you can.
Yeah, that's interesting that you said that because I was talking with your husband about I'm a big fan of Mark Bell, and I know
Well,
the
yeah, we've been on his podcast in
yeah.
California.
Yeah. Mark's great. He puts out a lot of good content, and the one thing I do appreciate about him is he's always trying something and experimenting and talking about it, and I feel like the sugar diet had its run, a little bit of a run there. But in my opinion, it's absolutely not a healthy diet, but the reason why I was intrigued by it is because you were seeing all these anecdotal testimonials about people talking about their experience. People were losing weight, but it makes sense, right? Like if you're just eating high sugar and you're pulling back
Everything.
two big macronutrients, you're pulling back protein and you're pulling back fat, and you're increasing that hormone FGF21, right? You're basically completely throwing a huge wrench into your entire. You're basically hacking your metabolism to go on a very forward focused fat burning mode, and people were losing weight. The problem is it's like you can't live your life smashing Twinkies and Sour Patch Kids. There's no way that that's healthy.
No, it's not healthy, and that's why I still encourage people, and even when it comes to protein versus fat, when we talk
Mm,
about, the different keto carnivore approaches, I don't know if you caught it, you mentioned my Instagram. Last week I posted about, okay, if I put a plate in front of you that has 0 nutrients, maybe a little vitamin A, or a plate in front of you that has all the vitamins and minerals your body needs for that day, which one are you gonna choose? This one, right? And then I pull it back. I said, okay, this is a plate of butter. That's your vitamin A. That's all you get for the day. This is all your protein that has iron and zinc and selenium and B12 and 9 times the amount of potassium. So, and you get to eat all of this food. It was my carnivore spaghetti with some meatballs and my protein pudding. And what else? Oh, 4 slices of garlic bread with my protein bread. I mean,
mhm.
and you get a massive amount of food, right? So that's what kind of my point was, is that, okay, this fat versus protein thing, you can't deny the nutrients are in the protein. They're not, there's very little in butter or fat.
Well, we can talk about muscle building right now too, because this is one of the things that Dr. Kiltz and I kind of got into about, he was saying nobody needs protein. He was basically saying on my podcast that you build amino acids and you can build protein from breaking down fat in the body. And I was just like,
That no.
yeah,
No, just because you say something doesn't make it true. Just because you say something with confidence. So
true. Yeah, I agree with you.
love him very much, but we were at an event a few months ago. Or no, not even, it was a month ago. It was in August. And someone specifically stood up and asked me a question about my weight gain muscle building journey.
Hmm.
And they said, "Can you tell us the strategies?" And he interrupted and said, she's going to eat a lot of fat because you need fat amino acids from fat. And I was like, what? For how much? Was it 2,000 calories of fat? You get 1 gram of amino acid. That's it.
Yeah.
That is not what I'm focusing on. Obviously, I am adding fat to gain some weight, but I am like my breakfast is about 85 grams of protein, right? So no, I'm not focusing on fat,
Yeah.
build muscle. That
Yeah.
is ridiculous. So just because you say stuff in confidence, those types of people bug me.
Well, let's talk about that real quick because I did want to ask you because I know you posted about going on your muscle gain journey. I want to get into like your day to day, how you're lifting, how you're eating, your protein, your macros. I want to get into all that so people can kind of get a good sense of, what you're doing now. But how did you respond to him? Because I didn't know that. I didn't know that he had interrupted you because I heard you talking about this. I believe you were talking about the same situation when you were chatting with Dr. Lisa Wiedemann. How did you respond to him in that situation?
I just said, "You're completely wrong." And I just went on to say the facts. But we more got into it when he said women should not go on HRT and it's so unnatural. I was like, we're living in a world of microplastics and EMFs, and our lives are totally different than what our ancestors did. And our ancestors, they did use herbs for a natural HRT. So do not say that women, and you're a dude, you do not get to tell women what to do. Go away. And so I would say that's where I got more upset
Sure.
because women do not deserve to live over half their lives, some of them over half their lives, in a postmenopausal state where they're losing muscle, they're losing bone, their brains are deteriorating. They deserve better.
100%. I mean, the time in which we're living right now, the amount of toxins we're exposed to, how our food is stored, even our meat comes in plastic, depending on where you get it. Like, you know what I mean? Our meat comes in plastic. We're storing things in plastic, hairspray, chemicals, soap, you name it, candles, air fresheners. We are exposed, even when we don't want to be. When we just go out in public, we are exposed to more toxins than we ever have in the past. So that is going to impact our hormones more than we ever have. And this is why companies like Merrick Health, in my opinion, are becoming very, very successful, is because men's testosterone, we can talk about women and their hormones, but men's testosterone has been moving in the wrong direction for a number of years. But I think it's because 100% it has a lot to do with our food habits, behaviors, but it's also the environment that we're living in that's completely depleting everything. And a lot of us are below industry norms for hormone markers.
I- And not just that. I mean, we talk about like testosterone is male hormone and estrogen is a female hormone. Do you know that women make more testosterone than they do estrogen?
Hmm. Yeah.
So why don't we address that? Because it's super important for many, many reasons too. So I just get a little frustrated when it's like, no, that wasn't what our ancestors did. Okay, let's talk about what our ancestors did. You know what they didn't do? They didn't have a butter churner to put butter on steak. And they
Ah,
didn't have the opportunity to just cut the ribeye out of the cow. And first of all, they didn't have cows like we do today. We have learned how to fatten them up way more. I'm a bow hunter. I bow hunt. And when I sit out in the woods, I'm looking around and all of the animals are very lean. The deer, the squirrel, the turkey, the fish, like all the things that I do, it's all very lean meat. Moose, elk, it's all very lean. And so we have learned to change our food to be more fattening than what our ancestors ever ate. So do not say that we have to do what our ancestors did because you're not doing it either.
I am so glad you brought that up because, when Dr. Kiltz and I were chatting, he was kind of giving the analogy of a bear um, hibernating and fattening up. And I was just like, yeah, but like, think about how our ancestors ate, right? Like, think about the food that was available. But to your point, we bred until farming came around, we basically grew cows, right? We corralled them, we fed them, we fattened them, and that's why we have ribeyes and fatty cuts of meat. All of the animals, we weren't hunting fat cows. We were hunting deer. We were hunting wild game like bison and things like that. These are naturally leaner cuts of meat. It's 100% ancestrally appropriate to eat leaner cuts of meat because that's what we had available until modern agriculture and farming came around, where we fattened up our animals. And by the way, we fattened them up with not anything natural. We fattened them up with grain and soy, not grass.
Okay, so another point is when I was speaking in Meat Stock this past May, I won't say who, but one of the speakers said, but Maria, we gave all the protein to the dogs. I was like, in what civilization did they have the luxury to give the protein to the dogs? This
Didn't they
is
give the organs? Didn't they give the dogs the organs? That's what I
No,
have
the
heard.
organs were the prized. We knew that that was the nutrient. Like when, if you look at I had the opportunity to go to Africa a few times, and they give the new couple, the new married couple, the organs because it's going to make them more fertile, right? They knew that that was the prized piece. So I don't
Interesting.
know where this theory came from, but again, just because you say it in confidence doesn't make it true.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I wanted to switch real quick because we had briefly chatted about your muscle building journey. And to be honest with you, I've been kind of following along on your Instagram. It's really inspirational. And kudos to you because I can see, I don't know if you remember me commenting, I can see the change. I can
Thanks.
100% see the change in your arms and your shoulders. I can tell you're putting on some mass. If you don't mind me asking, now that you've gotten back into this muscle building mode and putting on muscle, what does like your day-to-day look like for you now in terms of when you, just so for the listeners know what Maria Emmerich's doing, like what does the day-to-day look like? Like when do you first eat? Do you eat before you work out, after you work out? What are your protein and macronutrient goals? All of it.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for saying that, because I mean, my mom won't be watching this, but I saw my parents recently, and she's like, "Doesn't look like you gained much," and I was like, "You don't realize how hard I'm trying. I'm gonna start crying just thinking about it." But thank you for your kindness, and it's a struggle, and it's a struggle in many ways, but my day looks like in the morning I'll do some red light. The hard part is my hunger has gone down tremendously. I'm up about 14 pounds from my lowest weight, and I've said this many times. Nobody saw me at my lowest weight. I was I was in the ICU. I was super sick.
Hmm.
I did not look good. I wouldn't want to do videos, and in the past year, my videos were my son's. I didn't want to be on camera because I looked terrible, but I was really excited about that low number, which was so twisted, right? Um, so in the morning, I kind of just like wake up with red light. It's still dark out when I get up, and I love doing some red light stuff. And if I am hungry, I will eat a little something. Um, but then I don't like to lift when I have a full stomach. And talking to Robert, I mean, he is the expert of building muscle. He's like, as long as you get your protein and your calories in that day, you don't need to worry about doing it right before your workout or after. So I'll do a pretty good strength training and I switch off. Again, I wake up way before anybody else is up. I'm up at like 4 a.m. working out, but I would rather do that than watch TV at night. So
Hmm.
I'll switch off. Today was a leg day. And then, tomorrow will be like arms and upper body type thing. And then after that, I jump in the sauna for anywhere from usually about a half an hour if I'm home, if I have time to do this. Again, I travel a lot, so I don't have opportunity to do this every day. But then I'll eat, and I usually eat, like I told you, it's about 85 grams of protein. I'm very I hunt, so I have a lot of meat. I like filet and scallops. It's just my thing. I love those together. If I have
Sure.
an opportunity to have that, again, I'll mix it up. And then sometimes I'll have yogurt with that too. It's full fat, organic yogurt, which I like, and some watermelon. I know, ooh, no, not carnivore and stuff. And here's Craig is a massive scientist. He
Yeah.
understands the body really well. And he said, you obviously want to build muscle. And gluconeogenesis is a real thing. It's what enables ketosis and carnivore to you live because your body, parts of your body does need glucose. And so he begged me to get at least 50 grams of carbs. So I eat like a half a watermelon after a workout because I don't want to waste that precious protein or my precious muscles to make the glucose I need for my brain, my thyroid. Certain parts of your body do, whatever Kilt says, parts of your body do need glucose. It's true. And you can't make it from fat. You can make it from protein. And so I'll do that. And then I usually get to work, podcasts, while we're writing a book. I'm doing recipes for companies. It's always something different. I can't tell you what. I actually do usually walk after I eat because I just don't like to sit. I don't really sit down very much anyway.
Yeah.
But I like to go on a walk. And then in the afternoon, do another meal. And I don't really count the macros, but it's it's a lot of protein. I prefer that. I feel much better eating that.
Hmm.
And then I'll usually do I got into this Ninja Creamy thing, so I'll do a Ninja Creamy later for like a little dessert. Uh,
What's a Ninja Creamy?
you don't know what a Ninja Creamy is, dude?
No, I don't.
Oh my gosh. So a Ninja Creamy is this machine. I ordered one.
I know what a ninja is, but I'm assuming you're gonna lay out like a very specific type of dessert that you make.
Sure. Okay. So
Yeah.
I ordered this machine. It's called a Ninja Creamy. It makes creamy ice cream. I've seen it all over TikTok. I was like, oh, I got to do this. It came. It's huge. It's expensive. I was like, I'm never going to use this. I returned it the next day.
Okay.
So then I had my girlfriends come. My best friends are from my retreats. I do retreats around the world, and we just got to be very close. They come on all my retreats, and I invited them to come stay at this cabin in Wisconsin. Some of them drove from Canada, and one of them brought a Ninja Creamy with her. She came from Canada, which is awesome. And they made this ice cream. It's with water. I make mine differently, so it's higher calorie, but it's water, protein powder, sometimes an egg, and that's like it. And I was like, this should be icy, gross. No, but this is not going to be good. And then they made it. And I was like, what? This is crazy. And so it's like magic ice cream. So I don't like telling everybody exactly what I do because my goal is going to be different than everybody else's, but I definitely do a higher calorie, higher fat version, but it's still a lot of protein. And I think it's really important to get, protein towards the morning for that leucine shift. And then before you go to bed, and I'm not saying right before bed, but to close out the day with a good protein bolus so you can go through the evening with a nice muscle building amount of protein.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna guess here. I would assume the way that you're making it, if you're wanting it to be a little bit more robust, have more calories in it, you might be using some full fat cream, maybe,
Or
and protein
yogurt, yeah.
powder and
Hmm.
and yogurt. Oh my gosh, I gotta
And
try this.
ricotta cheese too. Yeah.
I saw your ricotta cheese cheesecake.
Cheesecake? Dude,
I saw that post the other day, and I was like, I
that's better
wonder
than
how
cheese.
that.
It's better than
Yeah,
cream cheese, yeah. Because
and
cream cheese
you
has a very tangy taste to it. This is smooth. It's great.
And what kind of blew me away, honestly, was you use Element to flavor it, the electrolyte pack?
Well, what happened was when my girlfriends from around the world came to stay at this cabin, I I bought all this ricotta cheese on accident. It's a long story, but so I'm making this cheesecake, and I was like, we're stayed at a rental cabin. There's no lemon juice, And my friend said, "Well, instead of always add salt to your desserts. Salt is a flavor enhancer. So even for sweet things, always add salt." People don't realize that a McDonald's French fry or a McDonald's milkshake has more sodium than their French fry does. But that's how important sodium is to dessert. So she said, "Why don't you use the lemon one instead of lemon juice and salt?" I was like, "That's brilliant," and it's really good.
Yeah. Well, I had a question around tricks because obviously, like one of the things that I think you're definitely very well known for is all your cookbooks, your recipes. Um, You mentioned salt. Is there like one creative trick or ingredient you use when you're making your whether it's your desserts or your keto foods, low carb foods, whatever the case is? Is there one little ingredient or trick that can typically make something taste way better or make it easier to make?
Fish sauce.
Fish sauce.
Yeah, and again, you have to be careful because you wanna get just pure fish sauce, which is anchovies. Do not smell it, but that
Okay.
has something called, have you ever heard of umami?
Yes.
Umami is that flavor on your tongue that's indescribable. You know, you have sweet, savory, salty, all these different flavors profiles on your tongue. And then there's umami, which is this indescribable flavor that makes things taste great. This could be an MSG, fish sauce, Parmesan cheese, tomatoes have it. So different things have it. But adding a little fish sauce to deviled eggs, to your meatloaf, to whatever you're making really adds a flavor bomb. And most people, they were like, "Why does my food at home never taste as good as a restaurant?" It's because you don't use enough salt, is the
Yeah.
truth. And then I also would say if you want to make the perfect steak, if you don't have a histamine issue and you can leave it in the fridge, salt your steak the night before
Mm.
because it's going to infuse that steak with that salt flavor inside the steak, and it's gonna make it way more tender. It's a game changer.
So salt and that one, would you say that that would maybe go for like all meat? Because a lot of the times when I cook, and especially if it's like maybe like a flap steak or like
Chicken or whatever.
carne asada, yeah, or like a flank,
What you
sometimes
marinate. Marinade is the same theory. It's going to really and just, get all into the steak, the chicken, whatever you're using. I wouldn't do it on fish, but yeah.
that's good to know. I mean, because I still marinate a lot of like those like the flank steaks or whatever. But a lot of times the problem is my kids find them to be a little bit more chewy than they want them to be. So I'm wondering if maybe if I were to put in a little bit more salt, because there's salt in the marinade that I use and the different spices I'll put together. And even when I do marinate it overnight, it still comes out a little bit chewy and rough. What would I be maybe doing wrong?
Marinating it too long.
Marinating it too long.
Yeah. So same with chicken. If you marinate it too long, there comes a point where it's going to ruin the texture.
Ah, okay,
Yeah,
good to know.
yeah.
Um, I know we're starting to come up here on time, Maria, and I want to be respectful of what you got going on in your day. So I typically have a portion of the podcast where I go through like a rapid fire type of Q&A thing. So I've got some rapid fire questions, but what I was going to say was don't necessarily feel like you need to give like a rapid fire short answer. Feel free to
Okay.
elaborate here a little bit. What's the biggest lie people believe about keto that's keeping them sick and overweight?
That as long as it says keto, it's good for you. Like I'm
The
thinking of
treats?
the packaged bread.
Mhm.
I would say if it comes out of a package, I wouldn't eat it.
I think I would agree with you 100%. And because a lot of those keto treats too, if I'm remembering correctly, like they have those sugar alcohols in them that can completely mess up the digestion. Those are no good at all.
No, I made the mistake early on in my sugar-free lifestyle. I would buy the sugar-free candies. So I was like a teenager at this point, but I like to boat hunt, like I told you. And I would eat the sugar-free, candy type thing, right? The hard candies. And man, I would have the worst gas. I was like, no deer is ever gonna come by me because I stink terribly. Do not use that stuff. It's
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Good to know. Okay. If someone hit a weight loss plateau today, what are the top 3 things they could do right now to break through it?
get good sleep. So whether it be putting your blue blockers on at 5 p.m. so you get really good, because when you get that blue light, it's telling your brain that it's still daytime. And whether it be screens, phones, a huge TV, whatever, that can keep you from falling asleep well. And then if you can't stay asleep, get your progesterone tested, women. But getting good sleep is going to be huge for your blood sugar, your moods, your cravings, your ability to stay on the diet, and just the amount of food you're going to eat that day. If you
Mhm.
didn't sleep well, and your ability to build muscle. If you only slept 4 hours versus 8 hours, a lot of studies are showing that you have almost impossible feat building muscle with less sleep. And then I would say, let's cut out the dairy. Just do it for a week. People like short-term goals. Just cut out the butter, the cream, all of it for 1 week. See if you can do it, kind of challenge them that way. And then I would also probably bump up the protein and lower the fat like we were talking earlier.
Yeah, agree. What food do you believe is the most overrated health food, and why should people cut it out?
Um, Spinach,
Oxalates?
oxalates. People think that it's this great salad, delicious, and most people are eating it raw on a salad, which means there's going to be more oxalates in it. Have you ever had a kidney stone?
I have been lucky. I'm 40 years old right now. I'm gonna turn 41 in January. I have not had any, but to be honest with you, I cut spinach out of the diet a long time ago, and I've also had Sally Norton on. I almost wish she was like my mom. She's great, but she kind of changed a lot of how I eat certain plants, so I've been able to avoid them.
Okay, so when I cut all of that type of stuff out, I did have a kidney stone. It was the worst pain of my life. So I think spinach and probably like almond milk or nuts. People think nuts are so great healthy fat, and it's just, I think it could be a disaster for oxalate dumping.
100% agree with you. If you had to pick one keto hack that gives people the fastest results, what would it be?
Oh, I'm gonna go back to one more, coffee. Peop
Coffee for
Yeah,
the kidney stones?
coffee is gonna affect you in many ways. It has no matter who's making it, whether it be, I won't say his name, but some people claim there's no mold in their coffee. It's how it's made.
Bulletproof?
Yeah. It's how it's made. It's gonna have mold in it, so, it increases blood pressure, it makes your teeth brown, it, causes gastroparesis. It actually can, cause more anxiety with people, which is obvious. It can hinder your sleep. So there's I have a whole blog post on why I don't drink coffee anymore, and I had an IV of coffee in my arm. I drank so much coffee before. And now I feel my energy is better without it. But okay, biggest keto hack?
Well, I will say real quick before you go, and then we'll get back to that question. So, I was running into if I'm being honest, I was drinking a very unreasonable amount of coffee every single day. Like, sometimes it was like, I was sipping on it all day long up until noon. I would sometimes eat and then have it in the afternoon. Like, I could knock out a pot. I
Well,
could knock out a pot to myself.
yeah.
And I was running into never like kidney stone issues, but I was running into a whole bunch of other issues in regards to sleep, like very frequent urination. Like, I was waking up like 4 times a night to take a piss, but like I was losing a lot of water and electrolytes. Like, I was basically flushing my system out, and like my blood markers when I was getting my blood tested through Merrick, they were completely out of whack. And so the guy's like, "You have got to stop drinking coffee." So I have not stopped all the way.
Yeah.
I have dialed it back. I will maybe have like a cup and a half in the morning. Like, it's more of like a
Ritual.
morning, yeah, like a morning thing. And I know people tell me all the time, I can switch to bone broth. I can just have tea. I can make some more water. I can drink some warm water and still get that type of ritualistic effect. Though there's something about the coffee taste that I'm still attracted to in some way, I guess. But I've cut it down significantly, but I agree with you. Like, it's not great, but I have seen a bunch of improvements just cutting it way back.
Down, yeah, and even, like, blood sugar, it does increase your blood sugar about 8%, so that's why your hunger goes away when you drink it.
Yeah.
But once you have to stop eventually drinking it, and it's gonna make your cravings and hunger go through the roof.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Okay. Going back to the keto question. So if you had to pick one keto hack that gives people the fastest results, what would it be?
Have me be your personal chef. Um, I don't know. It's so hard. The biggest keto hack.
You know what kind of popped up into my mind? The two things, obviously, because I know you are a big keto, low carb cook and make your own recipes. Here's what I would say. One, um, go don't do the dirty keto, do the
No.
clean keto, right? And
Yeah.
then make as much food as you possibly can yourself. And that's why I think you are great and your YouTube is great and your Instagram is great because I think what you do, you might not even realize this, you help people make their own food. And when you make your own food at home and you're not buying it from the store, that's the big thing. The more crap you buy, whether it's DoorDash and the more restaurants you go out to eat at, you're not only consuming a whole bunch of shitty ingredients,
Yeah.
but there's the seed oils, all of the preservatives and the packaged keto treats that we were talking about. The more food you make at home, especially with your recipes, absolutely the healthier you will be. That's my opinion.
I like that one. I will choose that one, and that's what my Instagram the past few weeks I've been doing is making a recipe in less than 5 minutes and showing you that, "Okay, you only have 5 minutes to cook, let's go. You can do it. It's really, really easy." And people often think, "Oh, it costs too much to eat keto or healthy or it takes too much time." But what people don't realize is by the time you drive to Chipotle and bring it home or even DoorDash, by the time it comes, it's gonna be way more expensive. We did a comparison where, my oldest stayed with me, this was a long time ago, and Craig went to Chipotle with my youngest one, and this was probably 14 years ago. By the time they came home with the Chipotle, we were done making it. We used all organic ingredients. We had leftovers. We were all cleaned up, and it cost about a fourth of the cost as going to Chipotle.
Interesting. Interesting.
It doesn't take more time, but it takes some effort, a little effort.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people
And
prioritize saving money for a car, they prioritize where their kids go to college, and they prioritize all this stuff in their life, and when the day-to-day things of what you eat, they don't prioritize, that is messed up.
I would also say I agree with you there too. And when you think about it, like we were talking about sleep, how important sleep is, like what you ingest should like how you eat, how you sleep, how you move, your exercise, what you drink, right? What you're ingesting in your body should be looked at very, very closely. If there's anyone listening to this should tinker around with the most,
Yeah.
it's what you are putting into your body. And I would suggest get really, really good and comfortable with learning how to cook and cooking as much of your own food as you can. Is there anything better? Is there anything better than cooking your own food, having it taste great, not having to spend money having someone else do it, and knowing that whatever you're putting in your body is healthy? There isn't anything better than that in my opinion.
There are so I don't like to clean, so I can't judge somebody who doesn't like to cook, but if you don't like to cook, I say invest in an Instant Pot or a slow cooker because it cooks it for you.
100%. Slow cookers are, and we're basically getting close to slow cooker season.
No, I think summer is slow cooker season because
Really?
yeah, because you put it in the morning, it doesn't heat up your house, and you could go on a bike ride, you could do more things, and it cooks it for you. I think summer is slow cooker season.
Yeah, so I would say this because again, I'm in Texas now. We're in two different climates. I know you're up in Wisconsin, but So in my opinion, summer's barbecue season. Summer's barbecue grilling season, and then once like you're not going outside as much, but probably gets way colder up there than it does down here. You know, I feel
You
like
live in
then it's like to bring out the slow cooker, like have it cooking on the counter for like 8 hours and making the meat. But
Well, that
whatever,
was my trick. When I had a real job and I had to leave the house, I would prepare. So while Craig is an awesome husband, Craig would clean up our dinner and then I would prepare dinner for the next night. So I would often fill the slow cooker, and I had 3 of them because I was writing books for it too. But I would fill the slow cooker, put the shell into the fridge, and then in the morning, I just had to take them out, turn it on, make sure you plug it in because I've come home without plugging it in. But you come home from a long day at work and everything is cooked for you. It's like the best feeling ever.
oh yeah, that is the best part, 100%, because it's like you feel like you didn't even have to watch it either. It was just sitting on
Nope.
the counter, ready to go. Last question here, and then we'll wrap up. And you might have answered this a little bit earlier when you were talking about the gentleman Tyler that you and Craig were working with, but what's the most shocking transformation story you've seen on your end from someone going keto or carnivore and working with you guys?
It's not Tyler. I
Okay.
would say it's probably Kiki. So I used to do body pump at the YMCA. It's a class. I loved it. And this woman would come during the summer, and she was very small frame like me, but she always wore a bandana and she didn't have any eyebrows. And one day she came up to me and she said, "Maria, I heard you could help me. I have alopecia. I don't have any hair, but I heard you could help." And I said, "Yes, I can help you." And so that's is when I had an office in the house. And so she came to my office and I told her what to do. And she was a professor, so I only saw her in the summertime. And this was the fall, so she wasn't at the gym. And we would just communicate via online, texting, that type of stuff, calls. And I didn't see her. And then May came and she came back to the Y, and she had her stupid bandana on and she ripped it off and she started crying and she said, "I had my first haircut in 10 years." She had a full head of hair.
No way. What specifically was the protocol? Was it like a standard ketogenic diet, or what did she end up going on?
There's different types of alopecia, so I want anybody with suffering with that to know that. But her type of alopecia was autoimmune, and so I cut out gluten and dairy, and sugar was obviously a inflammation for her too. But cutting those autoimmune triggers were huge.
That is awesome. Wow, that's a good story. That's a really, really cool one. Because usually the when I ask a question like that, it's usually more weight loss focused or body
No,
transformation.
I love it when people get off antidepressants,
Yeah,
their anxie there was a teenager that came up to me. I used to do book signings all over the place. I love to meet people and do those, and it was in Colorado, and this teenager came up to me, and she was crying, and she said, "Maria, if it weren't for you, I'd be institutionalized because I have such bad anxiety. I would have been able to talk to you." But she was just talking to all the people, and it's just crazy how food can affect your mental wellness, and I think that's what I love the most, or especially with kids with whether it be autism or ADHD, getting, messages from parents saying, "My kids are now focused," or "I got a hug for the first time in my life from a child with autism." That
yeah.
type of stuff, way better than weight loss. Sorry.
I would have to agree with you, and that's what's crazy about the power of food, going back to what we were discussing earlier about the one thing, that we wanna be, essentially monitoring the most, whether our exercise or sleep. It's like what we're ingesting in our body because it doesn't just necessarily impact our weight or what the scale says or our body composition. It impacts our brain and so many other factors as well. That's why it's just so crazy. So yeah, great story, and a perfect place I would say to wrap up too. Before we wrap up, anything new coming up for you? Anything new that you're working on, Maria?
Well, if you don't know, I do retreats around the world,
Mhm.
and this is not something I get paid for doing. It's just something I love to do. We get to see different parts of the world. I'm doing a India retreat. That one is full, so you can't sign up for that. But I just opened. I didn't even announce this to my followers yet, but We're planning one for Croatia in September 5th through the 12th. And if you love water, we've done this before. If you are a water person, if you love just being on a boat on the water or snorkeling or any of that, Croatia is the place to be. It was my favorite trip. I've never eaten so well. The best food I've ever eaten, it was in Croatia. And if you're a Game of Thrones fan, you should go. And then we're going to do Ischia, Italy, which is an island in Italy that nobody knows about, right afterwards. So some people like to do both trips, and then you're just, it's a little boat ride over to
Yeah.
island of Ischia. And we did Ischia last year, and it was magical. So
Very cool. That's awesome. That sounds like that would be a really, really cool retreat to go on.
I love it.
Well, Maria, I mean, this was fantastic. You're awesome.
Max.
Where can people find you online, get in contact with you, work with you, find out about the retreats?
If you go to ketomaria.com, that's all the information about the retreats. If you go all the way to the bottom, you'll find my free Facebook groups. You do not have to pay me $1. Like Twyla lost 270 pounds just from being on our free Facebook groups. Those are at the bottom. My YouTube's at the bottom. My Instagram and all those are there. But you can find my blog at ketomaria.com. There's a lot of free information. There's a free macro calculator there. If you don't know your macros, get those done.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Well,
Thanks,
this
Matt.
this was awesome. And thanks guys for listening to the Low Carb Consultant Podcast. We'll catch you all on the next one.